starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Warp Speed! Hello, this is show number 5, Operation Warp Speed. Sure, warp speed is fast, but is it regulated the same? We are the Peritoneal Drug Association student chapter. We connect people, science, and regulation. This podcast is with Nick Kapp, student club advisor. We have a series of podcasts that are roughly 5 to 10 minutes long. We intend to inform and educate a new generation of pharma manufacturers through discussions and helpful links, stories, and interviews. Help us help you. In the coming weeks, we will be trying out various ways to inform our listeners of what it takes to work in the pharma manufacturing, or some of the information that it takes to work in pharma manufacturing. If you want to send me a direct line, I am Kapp at smccd.edu. We are the West Coast PDA student chapter, the Peritoneal Drug Association, connecting people, science, and regulation. This information that I'm giving is from a press release dated June 16, 2020. Operation Warp Speed, OWS, aims to deliver 30 million doses of a safe, effective vaccine for COVID-19 by January 2020. The federal government is spending well over $10 billion on this. But again, 30 million doses, that's about $30 a dose. To get us out of this mess, it may be worth it. Again, this is a broad strategy to accelerate the development, manufacturing, and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. I will collectively know these as countermeasures. We'll be focusing mainly on the COVID-19 vaccines. This is amazing because many vaccines take over 10 years to produce, and we're going to be doing it in less than a year. Sometimes the academic is even over before we have the vaccine. And so again, we always prepare to try for the next one. And many of the methods that we have been produced by companies to be a little bit faster. They were produced in previous ages. So we're not just kind of left starting anew. How do we make things go faster? Again, according to this press release, the protocols for demonstration of safety and efficacy are being aligned. That is, lined up with one another, which will allow the trials to proceed more quickly. The protocols for the trials will be overseen by the federal government. Usually pharmaceutical companies decide on their own protocols, and then they have to explain what they're doing to the federal government. Because the federal government is actually overseeing and doing the protocols, then they really don't have that kind of learning technique to do, and it's what they want to do. Rather than eliminating steps from developmental timelines, we are going to proceed with these steps simultaneously. Again, an example of that is starting the manufacturing of the vaccine at industry scale well before the demonstration of the vaccine efficacy and safety happens normally. And so again, while they're figuring this out, they're also going to be manufacturing this. This increases the financial risk. If you're a company, you wouldn't want to do this because, again, at the end, if your vaccine doesn't work, then you're out $1 billion. Ideally, the federal government is taking that financial risk, but not the product risk. And ideally, at the end of this, we're going to end up with a safe and effective vaccine. Work so far, it's thought that the OWS has funded at least 9 independent coronavirus vaccine efforts and a smattering of related projects. I think they are trying to be transparent with this, but it's not really kind of showing up. The award is split almost evenly between large pharmaceutical companies and clinical stage biotech companies. Most investors know the big pharma participants like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson. And so again, what's these companies tend to have a lot of political clout. What's really kind of interesting is that we are spreading this money around between the big companies, but we're also funding some of the smaller biotechs like Moderna, Novavax, and Vaxart that are relatively newcomers that have developed a process for a vaccine. We don't necessarily know if they're a vaccine yet. So some of these vaccines have not come on to market yet. This is a small number. As of today's date, July 24th, there's over 160 vaccines that are in development. If you go to the WHO website, you could look at it. These include inactivated viruses, where they actually take a live virus, they kill it somehow, adding formaldehyde, etc., and then that is injected into the body. We have these subunit viruses, which are various proteins, typically the spike proteins that are made and given to somebody. Again, DNA, where that material is made in the body. An attenuated virus, which a lot of people are really hopeful and think that that would work a little bit better, where we take the virus and we mutate it somehow so that it doesn't cause infection. And then, again, viruses and non-replicating viral vectors. All of these are examples of vaccines that we've done. Ones that are kind of ready to go or look ready to go are being tried out by the Operation Warp Speed. Now, you may think Warp Speed is this kind of weird thing, and I made a little bit of a joke about Star Wars in the very beginning of this, but this is an example of a business approach, rather than what we call the iterative waterfall approach. In the iterative waterfall approach, you actually, I'm going to go back here a little bit, that you have these various steps, and it kind of looks like a waterfall, and you don't do the next one until you have a success in that step. There's also Warp Speed Growth, which is a book by Peter Meyer that's out this coming kind of last year. So again, people are looking at how do we make this faster? And again, we're software where you need to get the newest version of your software out there as quickly as possible. You would do this because a lot of times when you do this, you're not spending a lot on manufacturing something. What the federal government is doing here for this Operation Warp Speed is we are compressing all of these and doing the manufacturing at the same time because, again, time is of essence here. And so rather than 10 years, we want to do this in 6 months. We want to do this in 1 year. So, again, that has been done. The general stages of development of the cycle of a vaccine are kind of your exploratory stage. Most of these vaccines have already done the exploratory stage. And so they basically had a process that was set up, and then they're just putting in the components of this vaccine. The preclinical stages that before human beings, and that is it safe in things like chimpanzees or other animals? In the clinical development, this is in humans. Oh, my God. We're looking at a stage 1 and 2 at this kind of doing the same time, looking at safety, looking at what it does, and then doing the larger clinical trials. And many of these are actually going to stage 3 kind of right now. While they are going to stage 3, you're looking at regulatory review and approval, and you're developing your manufacturing and you're developing your quality control. Normally, you wouldn't start these processes until you know that you have a good candidate on hand. But again, we don't have the time and we're trying to do this. And now this is something that industry has been trying to do for a while. Again, any vaccine or drug has to go through all of the regulatory processes. That is, it has to send up and start an investigation, an IND application. They have to pre-license vaccine clinical trials, a biological license application, a BLA, inspection of the manufacturing facility, and presentation of the finding to the FDAs. It's hoping that by doing all of these kind of all at the same time, and so for the most part, these are processes and drugs that have kind of been in stage. And so what they did is we are going to make a vaccine this particular way, and then what they did is once they got the sequence of the vaccine, they were able to put that information into there and kind of develop that vaccine. So it's a process that's been done before. And so while this particular vaccine hasn't been set up, the process has been done to set up. Are we at risk with Operation Warp Speed? We're at risk with everything. Again, we have our eggs. There are eggs in a few baskets. And so we have maybe 5 or 7 of these that we looked, and we at the time we thought they were a good candidate, and we don't know if they're a good candidate till the end point. Luckily, there's 160 different vaccines that are going on, and we've tried 7 of them, and if those don't work, we could go back and look at the other ones. Again, can we miss something that we've not seen by going so fast? That's the scary thing. And so again, we're trying this so fast, what happens if there's an effect? Or, again, we're trying this at 30,000 people, and what if we see this risk at 10, over that number? Again, there's still always a risk. Will a vaccine work? Will the antibodies produced from it reduce or eliminate the risk of infection? Who knows? Again, when we do Operation Warp Speed, we have to look at safety and efficacy, and that's something that PDA is really caring about. It's something that we should all really care about. This is Nick Kapp from the West Coast chapter, PDA student chapter, signing out.